Hi, have you ever thought about moving to Montana? Well, it doesn't matter if you're moving to Montana or anywhere. There are about 10 things that you want to take into consideration when you think about moving somewhere. And we're going to cover those 10 things specifically with respect to moving to Montana. I'm Craig Siphers with Montana Real Estate Channel, and I work with my daughter Erica at Exit Realty Bitterroot Valley South. We're part of the Siphers Family Real Estate, and we've been helping folks move into and around the state of Montana since 1966. We'd love to be a resource for you if you're thinking about moving around Montana or moving into Montana. And we're going to cover the top 10 things that you need to think about whenever you're moving to wherever you're moving. So let's go ahead and get started right now. The first element is cost of living. In Montana, we've gone in the last 5 years from 2021 to 2026 from $520,000 to $656,000 for the average home price. And the other element is the taxes. Montana's got a progressive or gradual income tax, 2 levels, 4.7 up to 5.9%, which is not a lot. So those are the two major elements of the cost of living. And of course, transportation is a little more expensive getting stuff to Montana, but our fuel prices are pretty low. And you of course have the cost of groceries, which transportation factors into. Another element, of course, of cost of living is the affordability of housing. And in terms of the wage cost gap is quite large in the state of Montana. In fact, the National Association of Realtors has indicated that Montana is the least affordable place for real estate in the United States because of the difference between the cost of homes and the income, something to consider. The other element is jobs and income. Montana, it's pretty tough to find good wages. There's not a lot of competition because there's only a little over 1 million people in the state of Montana. Most of those folks are on the west side. And so the wages aren't real high. And of course, there's the gap we just talked about in terms of affordability with respect to the overall cost of living, something that person needs to consider. On the other hand, it's a great place for remote work. And we'll talk a little bit about lifestyle, but in terms of jobs and income, remote work is a great opportunity in the state of Montana if we can find the access to internet. The third element to consider is safety and crime. Of course, Montana doesn't really have much in the way of crime. We don't have a lot of people. If you take a look at the numbers, however, the crime per 100 can seem a little bit high just because we have a low population. That's a statistical element to it. In terms of safety, it's very safe. We don't have much in the way of natural disasters, and you can see our natural disaster video in Montana when we talk about fires, earthquakes, windstorms, tornadoes. All of that is in that video. But we also have a little longer response time for emergency services. So that's something to consider depending on where you're at. If you're in the rural areas, naturally it's going to be a longer. And then in the urban areas, it's as good as it gets, really. And so safety and crime is something to consider. Number 4 is schools and education. Of course, Montana has education from pre-K all the way through to postgraduate work at our university system in the state of Montana, which is actually excellent. And so it kind of depends on where you're at, what the community is. And so you can always check that out. In our description down below, we have niche.com. So you can check the community that you're looking to move into and find out what kind of school system is there in your elementary and secondary education. And of course, the University of Montana, you have Montana State in Bozeman, you have the University of Montana in Missoula, you have a number of other offshoots of the university system. You have Montana Western down in Dillon, and you have Great Falls and Billings, and you also have charter schools and parochial schools in Montana. So education is really pretty exceptional. 5 is family and community ties. That's where Montana really shines. The communities are really tight-knit, and they have to be, because in some cases we're in rural areas, the neighbors can be far away, and it's great for family as well. So from a community standpoint, Montana comes out really, really well, top notch. 6 is quality of life. Well, thinking about community and family ties, quality of life is unprecedented. You've got wonderful outdoors, like we are here at the Willoughby 40 in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley. Just behind me is over 1.3 million acres of wilderness. So if you want to get out in the mountains, the mountain lakes, whether you're hiking, fishing, you're going to go down and catch trout on the Bitterroot River or any of the number of rivers in the state of Montana. We have tons of public property, tons of public land that you can go recreate on. And so in terms of quality of life, the water is clean, the air is clean. It's really top-notch quality of life here in Montana. Another element of quality of life are things to do. And despite the fact that Montana is kind of out there in terms of being relatively rural across the board, there are in the urban areas great things to do. Lots of great restaurants. You can also go and see various concerts. I mean, in Missoula, for example, you can catch the Rolling Stones. And those are kind of intimate arenas in comparison to the big spots in the larger cities. So you've got entertainment, you've got great restaurants, and there's plenty of things really to do if you just look for them. In fact, not too long ago, I went to see Nate Bargatze in Missoula. So you got great things you can do in Montana. The 7th element is housing type and fit. In Montana, you have all sorts of different types of housing. From the urban areas of Billings, which is the largest city with a population of about 100,000 is all, to the very rural areas across Montana, you can find all sorts of housing and all sorts of neighborhoods. So there's quite a mix of neighborhoods that you can find in Montana. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. The 8th element of consideration is healthcare. Now, Montana is rural, so in the outlying areas, it's going to be harder to find quality health care, but in the urban areas, like say for Great Falls, Billings, Missoula, health care is really, some of it is first class, world class, and you have quick proximity to say Spokane or Seattle if you need it. And for example, in the Bitterroot Valley, there's a clinic with the Bitterroot Health, which is part of the old Marcus Daly Hospital. There's a clinic in every one of the little towns. So despite the fact that it's rural, Montana has pretty decent access to health care. The 9th thing to consider is weather and climate. And we know the climate's changing. But in terms of weather, Montana depends on where you're at. For example, here in the Bitterroot Valley, which we call the banana belt of Montana, right now it's the 1st of February. No snow on the ground. We're roughly 4,000 feet in elevation right here, and it's in the about the lower 50s. But it kind of depends. In the winter of 1996, on Christmas Eve, it snowed 44 inches on the flat. It didn't snow like that again for another 20 years, until 2015 actually. And so it just kind of depends on where you're at and what the weather is. It can be a little brutal, no question about it. But watch this quick video that gives you a difference of weather between two different spots. Hi, this is Craig Siphers with C&L Real Estate Services inside Exit Realty Bitterroot Valley. Today is January 21st, 2018, and we're in Seeley Lake, Montana. You can see the community sign here behind me, which advocates all the great winter sports. And as you can plainly see, we've got plenty of snow in Seeley. Here's an example of what's happening in Seeley today. And here I am in Stevensville, Montana, just 70 miles away from Seeley Lake. We're at an elevation of 3,300 against 4,000 in Seeley. And of course, you can see there's virtually no snow to speak of in Stevensville. And they are out picking bananas today. Super Bowl playoff. Again, it's January 21st, 2018. Come visit us in Montana. You can get pretty much any kind of weather you want. And keep in mind, we are at 4,000 feet today. And number 10 is long-term stability. You know, Montana's been a great place for retirees for years. And in the long run, Montana has pretty stable population. It's a pretty stable economy, doesn't change an awful lot, so you really know what you're getting into. So those are the top 10 things to consider no matter where you're moving. And we want you to consider that with respect to Montana. And if we can help you at Siphers Family Real Estate, please reach out to us. All the information in order to get a hold of us is in the description below. We hope to see you on the next video.